The galaxy was wide and endless, filled with shining stars and countless civilizations. Among those stars was the planet Velara, home to tall crystal towers, glowing gardens, and people who valued harmony above all things. Velara was preparing for one of the most important events in its history, the celebration of Princess Serenya's coming of age. Leaders from many worlds had been invited, including humans, who were still new to the grand stage of galactic politics. Captain Elias Ward stood quietly at the edge of the great hall where the event was being held. He was a soldier of the Terran Defense Forces, tall and broad-shouldered, his uniform simple compared to the flowing robes and jeweled attire of the aliens around him. He was not here to celebrate. He was only part of a small human delegation, sent to show respect. His sharp eyes, trained by years of combat duty, scanned the room automatically. The Velarans were graceful beings, their skin faintly luminous, their voices soft like wind through leaves. They moved with elegance, their gestures calm and deliberate. To Elias, they seemed fragile compared to humans, but he respected their wisdom. They were known for art, peace, and diplomacy. The princess entered the hall, and every head turned. Serena wore silver robes that shimmered under the crystal lights. Her long hair glowed faintly with bioluminescence, a trait of her people. Though young, her presence carried dignity. She smiled at the guests, speaking kind words in her gentle voice. Elias watched silently. To him, she looked more like a symbol than a person, someone destined to lead, but also someone very unprepared for the dangers that leadership brought. His instincts whispered that the peace of this world was fragile. He had seen too many worlds fall because their leaders believed peace would last forever. As the ceremony continued, musicians played instruments that glowed with soft light. Guests tasted sweet fruits and sparkling drinks. Laughter filled the air. But Elias's attention never wavered from the shadows at the edge of the room. Something felt wrong. His soldier's mind picked out details others ignored. A servant moving against the flow of people. A hand lingering too long near a concealed pouch. Eyes watching the princess, not with admiration, but with cold intent. Elias's heart beat faster. He shifted slightly, his muscles tensing. He was only a guest, not part of the security. It was not his duty to act, but instinct told him danger was coming, and then it happened. A sharp flash of metal glimmered from the crowd. One of the so-called servants rushed forward, pulling a slender blade that shimmered with deadly energy. In a single motion, he leapt toward the princess. The hall gasped in shock. The guards were too far, their reaction slow. Serenya froze, her wide eyes filled with fear. Elias did not think. His body moved faster than thought. He shoved past startled guests, his boots striking hard against the polished floor. In an instant, he was between the assassin and the princess. The blade slashed toward her, but Elias caught the attacker's wrist with iron grip. The alien assassin hissed, surprised at the human's strength. Elias twisted, forcing the weapon away, then struck with a soldier's precision. Quick, controlled, efficient. The blade clattered to the floor. The assassin stumbled, unprepared for such raw power. Gasps echoed through the hall. No one had expected a human, of all people, to act so swiftly. Two more figures burst from the crowd, their weapons hidden until now. They lunged at the princess from both sides. Elias's eyes narrowed. He pushed Serenya back gently. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. Serenya could only nod, her voice caught in her throat. The first attacker recovered and charged again. Elias grabbed a chair from the banquet table and swung it with all his strength, blocking the strike and sending the alien sprawling. The other two hesitated for a second, shocked by the human's speed and improvisation. That hesitation was enough. Elias lunged forward, seizing one by the arm and driving his shoulder into the other. Both attackers stumbled. Guards finally surged in, their glowing spears raised, surrounding the fallen assassins. The hall was silent except for heavy breathing. Guests stared with wide eyes, unable to believe what they had just seen. Humans were known as tough and adaptable, but seeing one take down three armed attackers without a weapon was beyond their expectations. Princess Serenya clutched her robe, her heart racing. She looked at Elias with awe and gratitude. You saved me," she whispered. Elias stood tall, his breathing steady. His training had carried him through countless battles, but this moment felt different. "Just doing what needed to be done," he replied simply. The Velaran guards dragged the attackers away. The council members whispered among themselves, their glowing faces pale with shock. Never before had an assassination been attempted in the heart of the royal palace, and never had it been stopped in such a way. The celebration ended quickly. Guests were escorted out, still murmuring about the human soldier who had saved the princess. Later, in a quiet chamber, Serenia approached. Elias again. She looked smaller now, away from the crowd, her voice softer. "I owe you my life," she said. "If you had not been here." She paused, unable to finish the thought. Elias shook his head. "Assassins don't belong in celebrations. Someone had to stop them. That's all." But Serenia studied him closely. She saw the calm in his eyes, the strength in his stance, and the quiet humility in his words. Her people valued beauty and wisdom, but this human carried something else, something raw and unyielding. "Perhaps fate placed you here," she said softly. "Perhaps I was meant to meet you." Elias frowned slightly, uncomfortable with such words. He was a soldier, not a figure of destiny, yet deep inside he knew this was only the beginning. Beyond the crystal towers, the stars shone cold and bright. Somewhere out there, enemies were plotting again. Elias could feel it, and he would not let them succeed. For now, he was only a guest, but soon, he would become far more than that. The great hall of Velara had fallen silent after the attack. The guests had been escorted away, and the council of elders gathered in a private chamber. The glowing walls of the palace reflected their troubled faces. The attempted assassination was a wound to their pride. Velara was known as a world of peace, yet violence had struck at the very heart of their celebration. Princess Serenia sat quietly at the center of the room, her hands folded in her lap. She tried to appear calm, but her eyes betrayed her fear. The images of the assassins rushing toward her still replayed in her mind. She could still feel the strong grip of Captain Elias Ward pulling her to safety. The council argued among themselves. "This cannot be ignored," one elder said. "The people will lose faith in the throne if we allow such danger to pass unpunished." "We must strengthen our guards," another replied. "Double their number and place them at every entrance." Elias stood at the edge of the chamber, silent as the voices clashed. He was not part of this council, yet he had been invited to stay because of what he had done. His sharp eyes studied each elder, noticing the tension, the nervous gestures, and the flicker of mistrust between them. He knew from experience that when leaders argued more than they listened, danger was never far away. Finally, the eldest counselor turned toward him. "Captain Elias Ward," the old alien said in a calm voice. "You are a guest in our world, yet you acted when our own protectors could not. You have proven that your instincts are sharper than most." Elias shifted slightly but said nothing. He did not enjoy praise. The elder continued, "Until we uncover who sent these assassins, the princess must not walk unguarded. We wish you to remain at her side as her protector." The words hung heavy in the air. Serenia lifted her head in surprise. The guards in the room frowned, as if insulted that an outsider was being chosen over them. Elias spoke at last. His voice was steady and respectful. "With respect, I am not of your world. Surely your own soldiers are more suited to guard your princess." The elder shook his head. "Our soldiers are trained for defense, but they are slow to act, bound by tradition and rules. You saw what we did not. You moved before others even understood the danger. That is why we ask this of you." Serenia's soft voice joined in. "Captain Ward, please. I trust you. I felt safe only when you stood between me and danger." Elias hesitated. He had fought in wars across human colonies. He had seen how quickly peace could shatter. He never wanted to be bound to politics or royal courts. Yet the fear in Serenya's eyes struck something deep within him. Finally, he nodded. Very well, I will protect her. But understand this, I am not here for ceremony or show. If danger comes, I will act in my way. The council accepted his answer, and so, from that night forward, Elias became the guardian of the princess. Lakiu. Days that followed were uneasy. The city of Crystal Towers returned to its bright routines, but whispers spread quickly. News of the human soldier who had saved the princess traveled from street to street, market to market. Some spoke with admiration, others with doubt. Serenia, meanwhile, adjusted to her new life with a silent shadow at her side. Wherever she went, Elias followed. Through the shining gardens, across the floating bridges, and into the chambers of study where she met with scholars and advisors. At first, she found his presence strange. Humans were different from her people. He walked with firm steps, always scanning his surroundings. His eyes were sharp, always searching for threats no one else could see. He rarely smiled, and when he spoke, his words were short and direct. But slowly, Serenia's curiosity grew. One morning, as they walked through the gardens filled with glowing flowers, she turned to him. Captain Ward, she said softly, your world must be very different from ours. Tell me, what is Earth like? Elias glanced at her, then looked back at the path. For a moment he considered ignoring the question, but her gentle eyes held his attention. Earth, he said finally, is not one thing. It is mountains, forests, deserts, and oceans. It is both harsh and beautiful. My people had to fight to survive there. We learned to adapt to storms, to hunger, to war. That is why humans are the way we are. Serenia tilted her head. The way you are? What do you mean? Elias's voice was steady. We don't give up. We keep moving, even when everything tries to stop us. That's what saved you that night. I didn't think. I just acted. The princess fell silent, thinking about his words. Her people prized peace and balance. They avoided conflict whenever possible, but perhaps that made them blind to dangers others could see. As the days passed, Serenia asked more questions. She wanted to understand human history, human art, and human strength. Elias answered simply, never boasting, but his stories revealed a people who had survived endless challenges. At the same time, Elias watched the court with careful eyes. He noticed things the Valarans overlooked. An advisor whose smile never reached his eyes, a servant who lingered too long near private chambers, a noble who asked too many questions about security. To the aliens, these details seemed unimportant. To Elias, they were warnings. One evening, he reported quietly to Serenia. There are traitors among your people. The assassins were not outsiders. They had knowledge of your palace. Someone inside helped them. Serenia's face paled. But who would betray us? My council is loyal. My guards have served for years. Elias shook his head. I've seen it before. Power makes some people blind, others greedy. You must not trust appearances. The princess struggled with his words. Her heart wanted to believe in her people's goodness, yet she could not forget the cold eyes of the assassins. That night, as the stars shone through the crystal windows, Serenia found herself unable to sleep. She thought about Elias's stories, of Earth, of how humans never gave up even in darkness. Perhaps she needed to learn from that strength, and so the bond between the human warrior and the alien princess grew. He was not just her guard now. He was her teacher in ways she had never expected. She began to see him not only as a protector but as a symbol of something her world had lost, the courage to face danger without fear. But in the shadows of the palace, unseen eyes watched them both. The failed assassins had been captured, but the true conspirators still hid within the court, and they did not plan to fail again. The palace of Valara sparkled under the light of 2 moons. To the people outside, it looked calm and perfect. Yet inside its crystal walls, tension grew stronger each day. The attempted assassination of Princess Serenia had shaken the kingdom deeply. Though the attackers were captured, no one knew who had sent them. Captain Elias Ward stayed close to the princess at all times. His tall figure was easy to notice in the elegant halls filled with soft light and flowing robes. At first, the nobles had whispered that it was strange to see a human walking beside their princess, but as days passed, the whispers turned into respect. Everyone remembered the moment Elias had thrown himself in front of danger without hesitation. Still, Elias was not here for respect. His eyes never stopped scanning. Every servant, every advisor, every guard he studied carefully. He did not trust appearances. His years as a soldier had taught him that betrayal often came from familiar faces. Serenia felt the change too. The attack had opened her eyes. She still loved her people and her council, but now she could not ignore Elias's warnings. At night, when they sat in the quiet garden under glowing trees, she would ask him questions. "Captain Ward," she said softly one evening, "how do you know who to trust?" "My people. I have known them since I was a child, yet you speak as if anyone could betray us." Elias looked at her, his expression calm but serious. "Trust is earned, princess, not given freely. On Earth I saw commanders betray soldiers for power. I saw friends turn against each other when fear grew too strong. It doesn't matter how kind someone looks. Their actions tell the truth." Serenia lowered her gaze. "That is hard to hear, but perhaps it is what I need to learn." For a moment, silence filled the garden. Fireflies of blue light drifted between the flowers. Serenia thought about her council, men and women who had advised her father, who had guided her since she was young. Could any of them truly want her dead? The next day, Elias had his answer. The princess was scheduled to meet her advisors in the Hall of Wisdom. The chamber was tall and circular, filled with glowing crystals that recorded every word spoken inside. The council sat in a circle around her, their robes shining with faint light. Elias stood behind her chair, silent as a shadow. One advisor, a tall man named Lorien, spoke first. "Princess, the people grow restless. They ask why the assassins struck. They ask how the palace could be breached." Another, Lady Thalen, added sharply. "They also ask why a human now guards you instead of your own protectors." Her eyes slid toward Elias with clear dislike. Serenia raised her chin. "Captain Ward saved my life when others could not. His duty is to protect me until we find the truth. That is not a weakness, it is wisdom." Elias said nothing, but his sharp eyes watched every face around the circle. Most seemed troubled but loyal. Only a few carried expressions too controlled, as if they were hiding something. The council continued their debate, speaking of trade, of security, of the people's fears. Yet Elias noticed something small. When Princess Serenia spoke of hope, one advisor shifted in his seat with discomfort. When she mentioned unity, another clenched his hands too tightly. Later, as the princess returned to her chambers, Elias leaned closer to her. "Two of your advisors are lying," he said in a low voice. Serenia stopped, turning to him in shock. "Lying? But they have served my family for years." "I know the look of a guilty man," Elias replied firmly. "They are hiding something. I don't yet know what, but they fear your words of peace. Watch them closely." Serenia's heart felt heavy. She wanted to deny it, but deep inside she knew Elias's instincts were rarely wrong. That night, Elias did not sleep. He walked the palace halls silently, his boots echoing on the crystal floor. The guards nodded respectfully, but he could see their unease. Some welcomed him. Others disliked him. As he passed a quiet corridor, his sharp ears caught a whisper. He stopped, pressing himself against the wall. Two voices spoke in hushed tones from the shadows. The first attempt failed. "But there will be another." She must not live to complete her speech. Elias's eyes narrowed. He moved closer, silent as a predator. "But the human watches her constantly." The second voice said, "How can we act while he stands at her side?" The first voice answered coldly, "Then we must remove him first. Without him, she is nothing." Elias stepped into the light suddenly, and the two figures gasped. They were palace servants, carrying empty trays, but their fear betrayed them. Elias's hand shot out, gripping one by the wrist. "Who sent you?" he demanded. His voice was low and sharp. The servant trembled. We are only messengers." Before Elias could question further, the second servant pulled free and ran into the shadows. By the time Elias gave chase, the man was gone into the maze of corridors. Elias cursed under his breath and dragged the remaining servant to the guards. "Lock him away. Question him. He knows of another attempt." The guards obeyed, but Elias knew it would not be enough. The conspiracy ran deeper than frightened servants. The next morning, Serenia noticed the darkness in his eyes. "What happened? Captain Ward?" she asked gently. "There will be another attack," Elias said simply. "And this time, they will aim for me first." Serenia's hand trembled slightly, but she stood tall. "Then we must be ready. I will not live in fear. If I am to lead, I must face this." Elias looked at her for a long moment. The girl who once froze in fear was now growing into a leader. Quietly, he felt respect rise within him. "You are stronger than you know," he said. She gave a faint smile. "Perhaps I am learning from you." Days passed and the shadows grew longer. Elias noticed how the court divided. Some supported the princess, while others whispered doubts. He caught secret glances, hidden gestures, and strange meetings in the halls, but he also noticed something else. The princess was changing. She no longer looked only to the council for guidance. She began to ask Elias for advice, not just on safety, but on leadership. "On Earth," she asked one evening, "how did your people survive so many wars? How did leaders keep their people united?" Elias thought carefully before answering. "The best leaders fought alongside their people. They didn't hide behind walls, they shared danger. That's how trust is built." Serenia nodded slowly, as if storing his words deep inside her heart. Yet danger was close. In the heart of the palace, hidden behind golden doors, a secret meeting took place. A group of nobles stood together, their faces hard. "The princess grows too strong," one said. "Her bond with the human makes her dangerous. If she survives long enough to unite the people, our power is lost." Another whispered, "Then we strike again. This time she will not escape." They raised their hands in agreement. Unaware that far above them, Elias stood on a balcony, watching the palace with sharp, unblinking eyes. He did not yet know who all the traitors were, but he could feel it. Darkness was closing in, and he was ready. Because humans, as he always said, never give up, never. The palace of Velara glimmered under the light of the twin moons. Its crystal towers reflected the calm of the night, but inside, tension pulsed like a quiet heartbeat. Captain Elias Ward stood in the central corridor, his eyes scanning every shadow, every flicker of movement. He knew that the conspiracy against Princess Serenia had not ended. The first assassination attempt had failed, but the darkness behind it was still alive and scheming. Princess Serenia walked beside him, her steps measured and careful. She had grown stronger since the attack weeks ago. Fear still lingered, but it no longer ruled her. Instead, she carried herself with a quiet dignity that inspired the guards and humbled the court. Elias noticed the change. "You walk differently now," he said quietly, keeping his voice low. "You are not hiding anymore." Serenia looked at him, a small smile on her face. "I cannot hide. I must face what is coming. I am learning from you. Captain Ward." Elias nodded. There was no time for words of praise, though he felt a sense of pride. His duty was to protect her, and the shadows were already moving. That evening, the princess was scheduled to address the people of Velara. Her speech was meant to inspire hope, unity, and peace across the city. The streets outside were lined with citizens, their eyes shining as they awaited her words. Guards filled the squares, their glowing spears reflecting the moonlight. Elias stayed close to her, his hand resting near the hilt of his weapon. He had studied every route, every angle, every possible way the conspirators could strike. Yet despite all preparation, he knew that unpredictability was the enemy. The traitors had already shown cleverness before. The doors to the grand balcony opened and Serenia stepped forward. The crowd erupted into applause. Her voice carried across the square, clear and confident. She spoke of hope, of unity, and of the strength of the people when they stood together. Elias kept his eyes on the surroundings, watching every shadow, every whisper. And then he noticed it. A noble, one of the princess's trusted advisors, lingering near the back of the balcony. His hands were hidden beneath his robes, and his eyes darted nervously. Something in his stance made Elias's instincts scream. The man was not listening to the speech, he was waiting. The moment passed too quickly to explain. A sudden movement, a glint of metal under the man's sleeve, caught Elias's attention. The crowd was too busy cheering to notice, the guards positioned for ceremonial display rather than sudden attack. "Princess, move!" Elias shouted. Serenia's eyes widened in understanding and she stepped back. At the same moment, the man lunged, revealing a small but deadly device. Elias reacted instantly. He grabbed the man's arm and twisted, sending the device clattering across the balcony. Sparks flew, but no one was harmed. Gasps spread through the crowd. Some people froze in shock, while others murmured in confusion. The council guards surged forward, restraining the traitor. Elias's eyes scanned the rest of the balcony. Everyone else seemed calm, but he knew better. Betrayal rarely came in isolation. Later, in the quiet of the palace chambers, Elias reported to Serenia. "He was only part of it," he said, his tone grim. "There are more inside your court. I've seen the signs for weeks. Hidden meetings, secret glances, whispered words. The real conspirators are still at work." Serenia's hands tightened. "Even those closest to me?" she asked. Her voice trembled slightly, though her gaze was steady. "Yes," Elias replied. "We cannot trust anyone blindly, not even those who seem loyal." The princess sat silently for a long moment, thinking. She had always believed that her people, her family, and her advisors were loyal. But now she understood that true leadership required vigilance. Courage alone would not protect her. Intelligence and caution were equally important. "You will not leave my side?" she asked finally. "Never," Elias said simply. "I am here until this threat is gone." The following days were filled with careful planning. Elias trained the guards in new strategies, teaching them to watch for hidden signals and to respond without hesitation. He also worked with Serenia, helping her understand the subtle signs of deception. "Observe their actions, not their words," he advised one afternoon. "A smile can hide hatred. A nod can hide betrayal. The truth is always in what they do." Serenia took his lessons to heart. She began noticing small details she had never seen before. A hand that lingered near a locked door, a guard who avoided eye contact, a whisper that stopped when she approached. Each observation gave her a sense of control, even as danger surrounded her. One evening, while walking through the palace gardens, Elias spoke quietly. "The conspirators will act again soon. They are patient. They wait for a moment when we are careless, but we will be ready." Serenia looked at him, her eyes glowing softly in the moonlight. "I trust you," she said, "and I will not hide from them. I will face them with you by my side." Elias felt a surge of respect. She was growing into a leader who could inspire hope even in the darkest times. The day of the second attempt arrived quietly. The palace seemed calm, almost too calm. Elias's instincts were sharp as ever, and he moved silently beside the princess as she prepared to leave her chambers. The conspirators had chosen subtlety this time. No weapons were visible. No alarms had been triggered. But Elias noticed the hesitation of certain guards, the strange way some advisors lingered near doors, and the nervous glances of servants passing by. He whispered to Serenia, "Trust no one outside this corridor. Follow me exactly." Together they walked through the hall, their movements smooth and deliberate. Just as they were about to enter the balcony, Elias noticed the motion of a shadow behind a pillar. Without hesitation, he blocked the path and grabbed the figure. It was one of the council members, the same advisor he had suspected for weeks. His eyes were wide with shock, but there was no time for questions. Elias disarmed him and held him. Securely as the palace guards arrived, the princess stepped forward, her voice firm and calm. "This ends now," she said. Her courage inspired the guards to act decisively, and the traitor was taken into custody. Later, in the privacy of her chambers, Serenia turned to Elias. "You saved me again," she said softly, her voice filled with gratitude. Elias shook his head. "We saved each other. You followed my instructions, stayed calm, and learned to notice danger. You are no longer just a princess in need of protection. You are a leader who can face threats and make others strong." Serenia smiled faintly. "I am learning from the best teacher I could have." Elias's gaze softened. "And I am learning from you. You trust in others even when the world shows its darkness. That is a rare strength." The palace was quiet that night, the twin moons shining down on crystal towers. The conspirators had been revealed. Their plot ended, but the lesson remained clear. Vigilance, courage, and trust in the right allies were the foundation of safety. Elias knew that more challenges would come, but he also knew that together he and Serenia could face anything. Humans were adaptable, resourceful, and brave, and so too was the princess. The shadows had been beaten back, for now, and as the stars glimmered above, the bond between human and princess grew stronger, uniting courage and wisdom in a partnership that promised hope for all of Velara. The palace of Velara was calm under the morning light. The crystal towers reflected the sunrise, casting shimmering colors across the gardens. Princess Serenia walked slowly through the halls, her mind clear and focused. The conspirators had been caught. The palace was secure, but something deeper had changed within her. She was no longer the same girl who had trembled at danger. She was a leader. Captain Elias Ward walked beside her, as always. His tall figure was a constant shadow, ready for any threat, yet now the shadows themselves seemed less threatening. With the conspirators exposed and the court under careful watch, Elias's presence was no longer only for protection. It had become a symbol of strength and trust. Serenia looked at him as they passed the main courtyard. "You know, Captain Ward," she said softly, "I used to think that being a princess meant relying on others to protect me. But now I see that true strength comes from understanding, courage, and trust." Elias glanced at her. "And you have all of those. You just needed a chance to see it in action." She smiled faintly. "And you showed me what it means to never give up. Humans are remarkable in ways my people rarely understand." "You are remarkable, Elias." Elias shifted uncomfortably. Praise was not his habit, yet he felt a quiet pride. "I only did what needed to be done. You have done the hard part, facing danger and growing stronger because of it." The city outside, the palace, was alive. Citizens filled the streets, many gathering to hear their princess speak. Word had spread of the second attempt, and people were eager to see Serenia, not only as their princess, but as a symbol of hope. The streets echoed with excitement and curiosity. Elias escorted Serenia to the balcony overlooking the city. Guards were stationed along the edges, alert but calm. The city watched, its citizens holding their breath. Serenia raised her hand in greeting. "People of Velara," she began, her voice clear and steady. "These past weeks have tested us. Threats have come into our home, and danger has touched our lives. Yet we remain unbroken." Her words carried a power that few could ignore. Citizens murmured approval, their pride in their princess shining through. "And," she continued, "we have learned a great lesson. Strength is not only in protection, but in trust and courage. We must face challenges together, united as one people. And sometimes strength comes from unexpected places. Today, I stand beside someone whose courage saved my life, not once, but twice." Elias felt a heat rise to his cheeks as the citizens gasped and turned to look at him. He stood quietly, his usual calm self, but inside he knew this moment was significant. "Captain Elias Ward," Serenia said, "is not only my protector, but a symbol of what humans, and all beings, can achieve when we act with courage and loyalty. He has shown me, and all of us, that even in darkness hope can shine brightly." The crowd erupted in applause. Elias bowed slightly, a gesture of respect rather than pride, but he could feel something changing, an unspoken bond forming not only between him and the princess but between humans and the people of Velara. Later, in the quiet of the palace gardens, Serenia turned to Elias. "The council is cautious." "As expected," she said, her fingers brushing a glowing flower. "But I see things differently now. You have shown me that trust must be earned, courage must be constant, and leadership requires more than words." Elias nodded. "You have learned quickly. The conspirators underestimated you. They did not know that a princess who faces fear grows stronger than anyone could imagine." Serenia looked into his eyes. "And you? You are more than a guardian. You are a partner, a teacher, and a friend. I could not have come this far without you." Elias's expression softened. "I never thought I would find a purpose beyond fighting battles. Yet here, with you, I see that protection is not only about defending life, it is about helping someone grow, helping a world grow. That is worth more than any victory I've known before." The princess smiled. "Then you are not only my protector, Elias. You are part of this world, part of the future we will build together." The council reconvened the following day. They praised Elias for his bravery, but Serenia went further. "Captain Ward is not only my protector," she said firmly. "He is my ally, my friend, and a symbol of hope for all of Velara. He has earned our respect, and he will remain at my side, not as a guest but as a partner in leadership and in life." The council members exchanged glances. Some nodded slowly, others looked uneasy, but none dared to question the princess. Her words carried authority, born not just of rank but of experience, courage, and wisdom. Elias stood quietly, humbled. He had never expected recognition or praise, but he felt a deep sense of belonging, a feeling that he had rarely known on Earth, even among his own people. Here he had found a purpose beyond battle. Over the next weeks, life in the palace settled into a new rhythm. Elias continued to train the guards, refine security measures, and watch for any lingering threats. Serenia continued to meet with her council, speak to her people, and learn the subtleties of leadership. Yet through it all, their bond grew. They shared quiet conversations in the garden, discussed strategies in the halls, and sometimes simply walked under the glowing trees in silence. Each moment strengthened their trust, their respect, and their understanding of each other. One evening, as the twin moons rose high in the sky, Serenia turned to Elias. "Do you ever regret coming here, Elias?" she asked softly. He shook his head. "No. I came to protect, and I found purpose. I came to serve, and I found friendship. I came to fight, and I found hope." She smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft moonlight. "Then we were meant to meet. Perhaps the stars themselves guided us." Elias's lips curved into a small smile. "Perhaps they did. But it was our actions, our courage, and our trust that made all the difference." The city of Velara thrived. Citizens felt safer, inspired by their princess and the human warrior who had stood by her side. Rumors of the failed conspiracies faded, replaced by stories of bravery, trust, and unity. Children ran through the streets, dreaming of the day they could show courage like Serenia and Elias. Within the palace, the princess and her guardian shared quiet triumphs. Every plan, every strategy, every challenge they faced together strengthened not only the palace's safety, but also the bond between them. Elias realized that protection was more than stopping danger. It was helping someone grow into their full potential. Serenia realized that leadership was more than words. It was courage, wisdom, and trust in those who truly cared. Finally, one clear night, Elias and Serenia stood together atop the highest tower of the palace. The city stretched, below them glittering like a sea of light. Beyond it, stars filled the sky, silent witnesses to the courage and loyalty that had guided their journey. Serenia placed her hand gently on Elias's arm. "We have faced danger, deception, and fear," she said softly. "And yet, here we stand. Not as princess and guardian alone, but as partners. Together we can face whatever comes next." Elias looked at her, the weight of his experiences blending with the hope of the future. "Together," he agreed, "we are stronger than any threat. We are a team in every sense." For the first time in a long while, he felt completely at peace. His purpose had grown beyond the battlefield. He was not only a soldier, he was a protector, a teacher, a partner, and a friend. And in that moment he understood that true courage was not only in facing enemies, but in building trust, inspiring hope, and standing together with those who mattered most. Serenia smiled, her glowing eyes reflecting the stars above. "Then, let us step forward together, for Velara, for its people, and for the future we will build." Elias nodded. "For Velara, and for the bond we share." And together, under the twin moons and countless stars, human and princess faced the future, not as protector in charge, but as allies, friends, and partners, ready to meet whatever the galaxy might bring.